Hey, welcome to Starbound. I'm Daniel Pierce, and I'm going to be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories. That's including Sunspire Academy and Frarian and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support our new episodes and series, tap join below and become a Starbound member today. Now, let's get into today's story. Noah Brown's eyes tracked the rowdy aliens across the bar like rangefinders locking onto targets. 6 of them, all Vomox mercenaries by the look of their mismatched armor and the distinctive skull trophies hanging from their belts. Trouble, but not his problem. Not yet, anyway. He took another sip of whiskey, savoring the burn. Real Earth whiskey was hard to come by out here on Outpost 99. This forgotten backwater station where human and alien commerce met in a haze of questionable deals and even more questionable hygiene. The bartender, Lucy, had been saving the bottle for him. Small courtesies meant something out here on the edge. Another? Lucy asked, keeping one eye on the Vomox, who were getting louder by the minute. Not yet. Noah's voice was gravel and steel, weathered by 20 years in the Force Recon and another 5 doing private security in places where questions weren't asked and problems disappeared quietly. At 45, Noah Brown should have been ready for retirement. His body told him as much every morning when he woke up, reminding him of the bullet he had taken in Migos Prime, the knife wound from the clusterfuck in the Men's Station Rebellion, the 3 broken ribs courtesy of an IED outside Damascus. But retirement meant staying in one place, and Noah had forgotten how to do that somehow between his 3rd and 4th combat tour. The lead Vomox slammed his fist on the bar, rattling glasses. "More drink!" he bellowed, his universal translator making his demand sound even more obnoxious with its flat mechanical tone. Lucy slid another round of their fermented swill toward them. "That's it for tonight, boys. You've had enough." The biggest Vomox, tusk jutting from his lower jaw, grabbed Lucy's arm with a 3-fingered hand.
"When I say more, you give more human meat,"
Noah set his glass down with deliberate care. Still not his problem. Not until the Vomox yanked Lucy halfway across the bar, her face tightening with pain. Problem acquired. Noah stood, rolling his neck to work out a kink. He moved toward the bar with the unhurried confidence of a man who had never lost a fight he couldn't afford to lose.
"Let her go,"
he said simply. The Vomoxes turned, 6 pairs of yellow eyes taking his measure. What they saw apparently amused them. Just one human, medium build, short gray flecked hair and eyes that had seen too much. Nothing special. People always underestimated him. It was one of his greatest tactical advantages. The lead Vomox laughed, a sound like rocks in a garbage disposal.
"Mind your business, Saltskin."
Noah sighed. Oh. Last chance. When the Vomox's grip only tightened on Lucy's arm, Noah moved. No wasted motion, no dramatic wind-up, just the practical economy of someone who had spent his life in violence. His fist connected with the alien's throat, right below the tusk where the cartilage was weakest. The Vomox made a strangled sound and released Lucy, hands going to his neck. The other 5 reacted instantly, but they were drunk, and Noah was what the Corps had made him, then honed through decades of survival. The closest Vomox caught a beer bottle across the face, the thick glass barely cracking against his tough hide, but the impact was enough to stagger him. Noah used the momentum to drive his elbow into the softer abdomen of the next one, feeling something give with a satisfying crunch. A chair splintered across his back, which would hurt like hell tomorrow, but Noah was already turning, grabbing a serving tray from the bar and swinging it in a tight arc that connected it with a satisfying clang against a Vomox skull. 3 down, struggling to get up, 3 still standing. One pulled a vibro knife, the blade humming with lethal energy. Noah stepped inside the first wild swing, trapped the arm, and applied pressure to the wrist in exactly the right spot. The knife clattered to the floor, followed quickly by its owner as Noah swept his legs and drove him face first into the sticky floor. The last two came together, thinking numbers would save them. Noah ducked the first punch, caught the second alien in the knee with a savage kick that bent the joint backward with an audible pop, then used a broken chair leg to crack the final Vomox across the bony forehead. Elapsed time, 1 minute, 47 seconds. Noah wasn't getting any younger. He straightened, brushing splinters from his jacket, and nodded to Lucy. Sorry about the mess. Lucy stared at the 6 groaning Vomoxes littering her bar. On the house tonight, Noah. He nodded and returned to his drink, already scanning for the next potential problem. Old habits. From the shadows of a corner booth, beady eyes watched with rapt attention. Blort, military recruiter for the Plorbian Empire, had just witnessed salvation. Or at least, a postponement of his execution. Blort had been searching for 3 standard months, visiting 27 planets and space stations across 12 systems. His mission from Queen Ragara had been simple. Return with an army capable of defeating the Durgan horde, or don't return at all. The Plorbian Empire, once mighty, had grown soft. Their technological supremacy had made them complacent. Why train soldiers when automated defense systems could protect you? Why maintain a standing army when diplomatic relations kept aggression at bay? Then the Durgans had appeared on their borders, nomadic, brutal, and hungry for conquest. The automated defenses had failed against their primitive but effective tactics. The diplomatic missions had returned as severed heads. And now, Blort had failed too. Species after species had refused his offers. Those willing to fight demanded payment even the wealthy empire couldn't afford. Those affordable lacked the skill to matter. Tomorrow was his deadline to return, and all he had to show for his efforts was a death sentence. Until he saw the human. One human who had just demolished 6 Vomox warriors without breaking a sweat. Blort fingered the neural disruptor in his pocket. It was risky, insane even. Humans were notoriously dangerous and held grudges for generations. But returning empty-handed meant certain death. Well, this at least offered a chance. He waited until the human left the bar, following at a safe distance through the dimly lit corridors of Outpost 99. When the human paused to enter the access code for his docking bay, Blort struck. The neural disruptor was designed for Plorbian physiology, but most carbon-based life forms reacted similarly. The human jerked and collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. Blort stared at the unconscious form, heart hammering. He had just assaulted a human, a particularly lethal one at that. If he woke up before Blort had him secured on his ship. Working quickly, Blort dragged the human into his small transport vessel, straining under the weight. He activated the ship's restraint systems, binding the human to a passenger couch with energy fields, then initiated launch procedures with trembling hands. Queen's Hall, this is Recruiter Blort returning from assignment. He transmitted once they'd cleared the station. Please inform Her Majesty, I have secured the army as requested. Estimated arrival, 18 hours. The response was immediate. Confirmation required, Recruiter. You have secured an army. Blort looked back at the human, still unconscious in his restraints. Affirmative. One army, as promised. Noah woke with the mother of all headaches and the immediate certain knowledge that he had been ambushed. His vision swam into focus, revealing the curved ceiling of a small ship and the shimmering blue field of restraints across his chest and limbs. I see you're awake, human. Noah turned his head, ignoring the spike of pain. A small alien sat nervously at the ship's controls, maybe 4 feet tall, with pale skin stretched over a bulbous head, wide-set eyes, and 4-fingered hands that kept fidgeting with the navigation console.
You've made a mistake.
Noah said quietly. The alien laughed, a high-pitched, anxious sound.
Oh, I've made many mistakes. Kidnapping you is probably the latest in a long series. But I'm already dead if I return without an army, so I might as well take my chances with you.
Name, Noah demanded.
Blort, a military recruiter for the Plorbian Empire.
Well, Blort, there are a few things you should know. Noah kept his voice level, a technique he'd used during interrogations. Calm was always more terrifying than rage. First, kidnapping a human is generally considered a bad idea. Kidnapping a Force Recon Marine is considered suicidal. And kidnapping me specifically has been classified by 3 different governments as an act of war. Blort's already pale skin went a shade lighter. So, I suggest you turn this ship around before I get out of these restraints and show you exactly why that classification exists.
I can't,
Blort whispered.
We're already committed to the jump point, and Her Majesty's orders were quite clear. Return with an army, or don't return at all.
I hate to break it to you, but you're still short 1 army. Blort finally turned to face him fully, and Noah was surprised to see genuine desperation in those alien eyes.
Not if legends about humans are true, Blort said. Not if what I saw in that bar was real. One of you is worth a battalion of any other species. Isn't that what humans claim?
Noah said nothing, but his mind was already working. He had heard of the Plorbian Empire, a rich but declining power on the far side of the Orion Spur. Technological sophistication, but little military prowess. And now, they were apparently desperate enough to kidnap random humans. Blort took his silence as encouragement.
The Durgan Horde is 3 weeks from our core systems. They outnumber us 10 to 1. Our defenses can't hold them. Our soldiers can't fight them. But a human like you, might stand a chance.
So your plan is what exactly? Present me to your queen and hope I'll fight your war for you? After you stunned me and abducted me.
Essentially, yes.
Blort somehow managed to look both terrified and hopeful.
Will you?
Noah tested the restraints. Quality technology. But he probably could break free given time. The question was whether he should. He had been drifting for years, taking meaningless security jobs that barely challenged him. Now, this pathetic alien was offering him a war. It had been a while since his last good war. We'll see, he said finally. But if your queen decides to execute you, I won't step in. Blort nodded glumly.
Fair enough.
The Plorbian Royal Palace was exactly what Noah expected from a species that prioritized appearance over function. Towering spires of gold material that would collapse in a stiff breeze. Decorative buttresses that created perfect sniper nests, and wide, undefended approaches that might as well have been labeled "Attack Here" on enemy maps. Guards escorted them through vaulted hallways to the throne room, a cavernous space dominated by a raised dais. Upon it sat Queen Rhaegarra of the Plorbian Empire, and Noah found himself momentarily taken aback. Unlike Blort's small stature, the queen was tall for her species, nearly human-sized. Her skin was a deeper green, contrasting with her silver markings along her temples and jaw. She wore an elaborate headdress that seemed designed to add height and authority, but it was unnecessary. Her cold, assessing gaze did that well enough. The guards forced Noah to his knees before the throne. He didn't resist, using the opportunity to assess the room. 20 guards, all armed with energy weapons. Poor discipline. Half of them were watching him, but the other half were focused on Blort.
Your Majesty,
Blort began, visibly trembling.
I promised you an army. Here he is.
The silence that followed was deafening. The Queen rose slowly from her throne, her expression shifting from expectation to disbelief to cold fury.
This is your army, Recruiter Blort. One human? Yes, Your Majesty, but if you'd allow me to explain—
There is nothing to explain.
Her voice cracked like a whip.
I trusted you with the survival of our empire, and you return with a single alien specimen.
Guards, execute this failure.
2 guards moved toward Blort, weapons raised.
Before you waste a perfectly good recruiter, Your Majesty,
Noah interrupted.
you might want to see what I can do.
The Queen's attention snapped to him, eyes narrowing. And why would I care what a kidnapped mercenary can do?
Because Blort is right about one thing. I'm worth an army. But don't take my word for it. Let me demonstrate.
The Queen studied him for a long moment. Noah met her gaze steadily, recognizing the calculation happening behind those alien eyes. She was weighing the risk against her desperation. Very well, she said finally. A demonstration. 5 of my royal guards against you. If you prevail, I will consider Blort's claim. If you fail, you both die. Noah rose to his feet.
I'll need proper training weapons.
The Queen gestured, and a side door opened to reveal a training area adjacent to the throne room. Weapon racks lined the walls, everything from staffs to training analogs of the guards' energy weapons. Choose, she commanded. Noah selected a simple metal staff, testing its weight and balance.
This'll do.
5 royal guards stepped forward, each selecting their preferred weapons, 2 with energy blade simulators, 3 with the training versions of their standard issue blasters. They arranged themselves in a loose circle around Noah, confident in their numbers. Noah noted their positioning, their grips, their stances, all wrong. They'd been trained to look impressive, not to fight effectively. Begin, the Queen commanded. The first guard charged, energy blade raised high. Noah sidestepped, extending his foot at the last moment. The guard, carried by his own momentum, tripped and staggered forward. Noah brought the staff down precisely on the back of the guard's neck, a stunning blow that dropped him instantly. The next 2 fired their blasters simultaneously. Noah was already moving, rolling beneath the energy pulses, closing the distance to the nearest shooter. The staff whipped up, catching the guard's weapon and sending it flying, then reversing direction to slam into his midsection.
You're bunching too close together,
Noah said conversationally as he spun to face the remaining guards.
And your left side is completely unprotected.
To demonstrate, he slipped past the second blaster wielder's defenses and struck him hard in the left flank, driving the air from the alien's lungs. As the guard doubled over, Noah relieved him of his weapon and fired a stunning pulse at the third shooter, dropping him instantly. The final guard, seeing his companions fall, approached more cautiously with his energy blade. Noah set down the captured blaster, preferring the staff.
Your armor slows you down, he observed, and that two-handed grip means you can't adjust quickly enough.
The guard, angered by the critique, launched a flurry of attacks. Noah parried each one with economic movements, never using more energy than necessary. When the guard overextended on a thrust, Noah stepped inside his guard, struck the wrist to numb the hand, then swept the legs from under him. In under 3 minutes, all 5 royal guards were incapacitated, and Noah stood untouched. He turned to Queen Rhaegar, whose expression had transformed from skepticism to fascination.
That was illuminating, she said, returning to her throne.
She gestured for the courtiers and remaining guards to leave, until only Noah, Blort, and herself remained in the vast chamber. It seems Blort's judgment wasn't entirely flawed, she continued, descending from the dais to approach Noah. Up close, she was even more striking. Her eyes had flecks of silver that matched her facial markings,
and there was an undeniable intensity to her presence.
Your Majesty is too kind.
Blort squeaked, relief evident in every syllable.
Don't press your luck, recruiter, she warned, though without the earlier venom. Her attention remained fixed on Noah. Do you have a name, human?
Noah Brown.
Well, Noah Brown, it seems you found yourself in the middle of our war.
Technically, I was kidnapped into the middle of your war,
Noah corrected.
A fact we'll need to address eventually.
The Queen's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Eventually. But first, let me explain our situation more fully. She led him to a tactical display at the side of the throne room, activating a three-dimensional map of Plorbian space. Red markers clustered at one edge, creeping steadily inward. The Durgan Horde, she explained. Nomadic raiders who've united under a single warlord. They've destroyed 3 of our outer colonies already. Their tactics are brutal but effective. They overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers and savagery. Noah studied the display, already seeing the patterns.
Your defensive line is too thin. You're trying to protect everything instead of concentrating your forces.
Unfortunately, we lack the military expertise to know where to concentrate those forces. Our empire has enjoyed peace for generations. Our weapons are advanced, but our strategies lack refinement.
And your soldiers lack training, Noah added bluntly.
Rather than take offense, the Queen nodded. We've grown complacent. Technology can only compensate so much for the warrior spirit. Noah folded his arms, considering.
So what exactly are you proposing? That I train your troops? There's not enough time.
No, she agreed. What I need is someone who can lead. Someone who can show my people how to fight. Someone who can make the Durgans fear us.
Someone like me.
Precisely like you. Her eyes held his, a challenge in their depths. I'm offering you command of our military forces. Unlimited resources. A chance to shape an entire empire's defense.
And what do I get out of this, beyond not being executed for showing up uninvited?
The Queen smiled, then a predatory expression that was somehow not unattractive. Besides the satisfaction of testing your skills against the Durgan Horde, name your price. Noah considered his drifting existence, the meaningless jobs, the lonely nights and forgotten bars, the emptiness of survival without purpose.
I'll need complete operational control, he said. No interference from your court or officials. Proper equipment. No ornamental garbage like your guards carry, and a guaranteed safe passage back to human space when this is all over.
Agreed, she said without hesitation. But Blort will assist you. He brought you here. He can bear witness to your methods. Noah glanced at the nervous recruiter, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Fine. If he gets in my way, I'm sending him back to you in pieces.
Fair enough. The Queen extended her hand in a gesture she'd clearly learned was the human way of sealing agreements. Do we have a deal, Noah Brown? Her hand was cooler than a human's, her grip firm. Noah found himself noticing the elegant length of her fingers, the subtle strength beneath the regal exterior.
We have a deal, Your Majesty.
Regara, she corrected. If you're to command my forces, you should use my name. There was something in her tone that went beyond military necessity, a personal interest that caught Noah off guard. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at him as more than a weapon or a threat.
Regara, he repeated. Let's see what we're working with.
What they were working with, as it turned out, was a disaster. The Plorbian military was a ceremonial joke, all thunder, no lightning. Their ships were marvels of engineering, but crewed by officers who had never seen actual combat. Their weapons were powerful, but over-engineered, prone to failure in field conditions. Their tactics were textbook perfect for conflicts that had ended centuries ago.
Noah stood in the Queen's private strategy room, surrounded by holograms of the Plorbian fleet in defensive positions. He'd spent 3 days assessing their capabilities, and his report wasn't going to be pretty. "Well?" Regara asked, entering the room alone. She had dispensed with the elaborate headdress, and Noah found he preferred her this way. Still regal, but less artificial. "You want it straight, or you want it sugar-coated?" "I've never had much taste for your sugar," she replied, joining him at the tactical display. "Your military's useless," Noah said bluntly. "Your ships are beautiful death traps. Your weapons are too complex for combat conditions. Your soldiers wouldn't last 5 minutes against a determined assault." Regara absorbed the critique without flinching. "And can it be fixed?" "Not in time. The Durgans will reach your core worlds in, 2 weeks? There's no way to retrain your entire military in that time frame." "Then what do you suggest?" Noah manipulated the display, zooming in on the approaching Durgan fleet. "We don't play to their strengths. No head-on engagement where numbers matter. Instead, we target their command structure. Cut off the head, the bodies die." "Assassination?" There was no judgment in her voice, only curiosity. "Strategic elimination," Noah corrected. "I'll need your fastest ship and your 5 least incompetent soldiers." Regara arched an eyebrow. "Only 5? "For what I have planned, that's more than enough. Any more would just slow me down."
"And Blort, of course."
Noah groaned. "Oh, is that really necessary?"
"He brought you here. Let him see his faith rewarded." There was a hint of amusement in her tone. "Besides, he might surprise you."
"I've had enough surprises lately," Noah muttered, but didn't argue further. "We'll leave tomorrow. The sooner we destabilize their command, the better."
Regara studied him with those silver-flecked eyes. "You're very confident for someone facing an enemy that outnumbers you thousands to 1.
Noah shrugged. "Numbers only matter if you can use them effectively. The Durgans expect you to fight like Plorbians. Technologically superior, but tactically predictable. They won't expect human tactics."
"And what are human tactics exactly?"
"Dirty," Noah said with a grim smile. "We fight dirty, hit hard, and never do what's expected."
"I look forward to observing this approach," Regara said. She moved closer, her shoulder nearly touching his as she examined the display. "Though I find myself curious about humans, beyond their military prowess." The shift in her tone was subtle but unmistakable. Noah glanced at her, noticing the way her body had angled towards his, the deliberate proximity.
"Such as?" he prompted.
"Your people have a reputation for intensity in all aspects of life." Her eyes met his, a challenge in their depths. "I wonder if that reputation is deserved." Noah had been propositioned before, hazard of the mercenary life, but never by alien royalty. The appropriate response was to politely deflect. The smart response was to establish professional boundaries. "We're intense when it matters," he heard himself say instead. Regara's lips curved in satisfaction. "Good. The Durgan conflict will require nothing less." She stepped back, resuming a more formal posture, but the moment lingered between them. "I've assigned quarters for you near the military command center. Blort will show you there and assist you with any preparations for tomorrow."
"Thank you, Your Majesty."
"Regara," she corrected again. "We are allies now, Noah Brown. Perhaps more, should circumstances allow." With that tantalizing ambiguity, she departed, leaving Noah to wonder what exactly he had gotten himself into. The mission launched at dawn the next day aboard the Whisper, the smallest and fastest ship in the Plorbian fleet. Noah had selected 5 soldiers based on aptitude tests he had hastily devised.
Not the highest-ranking officers, but those showing the most adaptability and courage. And Blort, of course, who turned out to be surprisingly useful in decoding Durgan communications they intercepted en route.
Their language isn't in any standard translator database,
Blort explained, hunched over the communication array.
but it shares root patterns with several frontier dialects I studied during my recruitment travels.
Noah watched as the nervous recruiter parsed the intercepted transmissions with unexpected competence. You never mentioned you were a linguist. Blort shrugged his bony shoulders.
The Queen doesn't value such skills. Military power is all that matters now.
Intelligence is military power, Noah corrected. Knowing your enemy's communications gives you an advantage no weapon can match. For 3 days, he drilled the small Plorbian team in human combat tactics. How to move silently, how to use terrain advantageously, how to fight dirty when necessary. The aliens struggled with concepts that went against their formal training but grudgingly adapted. Their first target was a Durgan communications outpost on an airless moon. Rather than a frontal assault, Noah led his team through a maintenance conduit, bypassing the main defenses. They planted explosive charges at structural weak points, then compromised the life support systems. When the Durgans discovered them, Noah didn't retreat as Plorbian doctrine would dictate. Instead, he led his team directly into the heart of the enemy force, causing confusion and panic. The Durgans, expecting textbook responses, were unprepared for the chaotic human approach. Within hours, the outpost was neutralized, its communication array destroyed, and Noah's team was back aboard the Whisper with minimal injuries.
I don't understand,
One of the Plorbian soldiers confessed as they departed.
We were outnumbered 3-1. We should have been overwhelmed.
Numbers don't always win battles, Noah explained, cleaning his weapon with practiced efficiency. Confidence, surprise, and exploiting weaknesses do. The Durgans rely on intimidation and mass attacks. Take those away, they're just bullies with big guns. Word of their success reached Queen Regara, who contacted them via secure hologram. Her image materialized in the ship's briefing room, looking pleased but concerned.
The Durgan outpost has gone silent, she reported. Their fleet is showing signs of confusion. Your strategy appears effective, but unconventional.
That's the point, Noah replied. Convention gets you killed when you're outmanned. Regara nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth.
I'm beginning to appreciate human methodology. Continue your mission, Commander Brown. The Empire awaits your triumphant return.
There was a warmth in her final words that went beyond official approval. Noah found himself staring at the space where her hologram had been, wondering again about the intensity in those silver-flecked eyes. Over the next week, Noah's strike team hit multiple Durgan targets. Communication hubs, supply depots, command outposts. Each success built their confidence and spread confusion among the enemy. The Durgan advanced slowed, then halted as their leadership struggled to counter these unexpected tactics. Blort, once terrified of Noah, had become his staunchest advocate, feeding exaggerated tales of Noah's exploits back to the Plorbian command.
The human disabled 3 guards with just his drinking cup,
He'd exclaim, only slightly embellishing the actual event. The turning point came when Noah's team was cornered by superior Durgan force on an asteroid mining facility. Retreat was cut off, and they were outnumbered 20-1. Well, this looks familiar, Noah muttered, assessing the position behind makeshift barricades. Reminds me of the time in Sarajevo, except with uglier aliens.
We're doomed,
one of the Plorbians moaned. Not yet, Noah said, formulating a plan so audacious it just might work. Blort, they've heard about our attacks on the outpost, right?
Certainly. Our victories have been causing quite a stir.
Noah checked his weapon, then handed Blort his tactical vest. Put this on. You're about to become my spokesperson. Under Noah's direction, Blort approached the Durgan position under a flag of truce. The aliens, curious about this unexpected development, allowed him to speak with their commander.
The human wishes to offer terms,
Blort announced, his voice carrying to where Noah waited.
He wants you to know that he is merely the advance scout for the human invasion force.
The Durgan commander, a hulking brute with ritual scars covering his face, laughed. One human has caused this chaos. You expect us to believe that?
Humans are death welders, Blort continued, following Noah's script. Their planet produces the most lethal predators in the galaxy. This one, he pointed to Noah, is just a standard reconnaissance officer. The warriors will follow next week.
The Durgan commander's laughter faltered. Their intelligence hadn't mentioned humans, but only as distant traitors. Could these creatures truly be as dangerous as the recent attack suggested?
If you doubt me, Blort had added, ask why all your outposts fell so easily. Ask why your commanders go silent. Ask why, with all your numbers, you cannot catch one small team.
Murmurs spread through the Durgan ranks. Their advance had indeed stalled since these raids began. What if there were more humans coming? Noah chose that moment to step forward, hands empty, face impassive. You have one chance, he called, his voice hard. Withdraw from this position. Return to your ships. When your warlord is ready to discuss terms, we can contact the Plorbian Queen. The bluff was outrageous, banking entirely on the reputation they'd built on the Durgans' incomplete intelligence about humans. For a long moment, Noah thought it would fail. Then, the Durgan commander barked an order, and his forces began to pull back. This isn't over, human, he growled. It never is, Noah replied with a cold smile. When they were safely back aboard the Whisper, Blort stared at Noah in amazement.
They believed it. They actually believed a human invasion force was coming.
Fear is a powerful weapon. Sometimes the most effective strategy is to become the monster your enemy fears most. They returned to a hero's welcome. Queen Regara had arranged a celebration in the grand hall of the palace with a military command and noble houses in attendance. Noah, uncomfortable with the attention, endured it stoically as Regara presented him with a ceremonial sword, a Plorbian symbol of highest honor.
Commander Brown's tactics have granted us precious time,
she announced to the assembled dignitaries.
The Durgan advance has halted. Their communications are in disarray. For the first time, we have hope.
Later, as the celebration continued, Noah found himself on a quiet balcony overlooking the capital city. The Plorbian architecture, which had initially struck him as impractical, caught the light of the setting sun in ways that were undeniably beautiful. Admiring the view, Regara's voice came from behind him. She had once again dispensed with her former regalia, wearing a simpler gown that accentuated her natural grace. Just getting some air, Noah replied. Not big on parties. Neither am I, in truth. She joined him at the railing. They're a necessary performance. Much like your military, Noah observed wryly. Regara laughed, a sound he hadn't heard before, genuine and unguarded. You never soften your words, do you? Not my style. I find it refreshing. Everyone else tells me what they think I wish to hear. She turned to face him fully. What makes humans so different, Noah? Why can one of you accomplish what armies cannot? Noah considered the question. Humanity's been trying to kill itself since we figured out rocks make good weapons. We've had more practice at war than most species have at existing. Makes you good at staying alive. A harsh education. The best kind, Noah replied. Survival doesn't allow for half measures. Regara moved closer, her eyes holding his. And is that all humans are good at? Survival and war? The tension between them crackled like static electricity. Noah was acutely aware of her proximity, the subtle scent that wasn't quite like anything on Earth. Before he could respond, a palisade burst onto the balcony, breathless with urgency. "Your Majesty, urgent news from the border fleet." The moment shattered. Rhaegar straightened, instantly regal once more.
"Speak, the Durgans have changed course. Their entire armada is heading directly to the homeworld. They'll be here in 3 days."
Noah's mind was already racing, calculating possibilities. "They're scared," he said as they hurried to the command center. "They're committing everything because they're afraid of what one human could do. Imagine what they'll think when they see what I actually have planned." In the command center, tactical displays showed the massive Durgan fleet, hundreds of ships converging on a single vector toward the Plorbian capital. The military advisors were in a panic, arguing that there was no way to repel such a force. Noah studied the display calmly, seeing not disaster, but opportunity. "Your defenses are designed to target many ships, right? To track and engage multiple threats simultaneously." The chief engineer nodded.
"The autonomous defense grid can track up to 200 targets at once."
"And your ships are faster, more maneuverable than theirs."
"Significantly."
The fleet commander confirmed.
"But they outnumber us 10 to 1.
Noah smiled, a predator's expression that made several advisors step back. "Then we have them exactly where we want them." Over the next 48 hours, Noah worked with the Plorbian engineers and fleet commanders to implement his strategy. Under his direction, they reconfigured the defense grid to create deliberate blind spots, traps that would funnel the Durgan ships into killing zones. He positioned the Plorbian fleet not as a defensive line, but in small, mobile strike groups that could hit and fade before the Durgans could bring their numbers to bear. Most controversially, he prepared a direct assault on the Durgan flagship with a small infiltration team. Himself, Blort, who had protested but ultimately accepted his role, and 3 of the soldiers from their previous missions. "This is insanity," the Plorbian admiral complained to Queen Rhaegar. "He's deliberately opening gaps in our defenses and committing our best ships to hit-and-run tactics."
"Commander Brown has earned my trust," Rhaegar replied, her tone brooking no argument. "His methods are unconventional, but effective. The battle plan stands."
When the Durgan fleet arrived, they found exactly what they expected: a Plorbian defense perimeter with obvious weaknesses. They charged forward, eager to exploit these gaps, only to discover that they had entered carefully crafted kill boxes where overlapping fire from concealed platforms decimated their ships. When they adjusted their approach, the nimble Plorbian vessels struck from unexpected vectors, crippling engines and weapon systems before disappearing again. The Durgans, accustomed to enemies who stood their ground, were confounded by an opponent who refused to fight honorably. Meanwhile, Noah's infiltration team approached the massive Durgan flagship under cover of the chaotic battle. Using a captured Durgan shuttle and codes Blort had decrypted, they gained entry through an auxiliary docking bay. "Stay close, stay quiet, and remember the plan," Noah instructed as they made their way through the labyrinthine vessel. "We're here for the warlord, no one else unless they get in our way." They encountered resistance, of course. The Durgan warriors were fierce and numerous, but Noah's team moved like ghosts through the ship, using maintenance corridors and air ducts to bypass the heaviest concentrations of enemies. When direct confrontation was unavoidable, Noah fought with a controlled violence that had become his signature: economical, brutal, and utterly effective. The Plorbians, now trained in his methods, followed his lead with growing confidence. They reached the command deck to find it sealed behind massive blast doors. Noah examined the control panel and turned to Blort. "Can you bypass this?" Blort swallowed nervously but nodded. "I think so. Their security architecture is primitive compared to ours." The doors slid open to reveal the Durgan command center, a vast chamber dominated by a raised platform where the warlord stood, roaring orders to his subordinates. He was enormous, even by Durgan standards, his body covered in ritual scars and trophies from conquered worlds. Noah stepped forward as his team secured the entryways. Warlord Grak, I presume. The Durgan leader turned, rage contorting his already fearsome features. Human! You dare invade my ship? I'm told I dare a lot of things, Noah replied calmly, including offering you a chance to surrender before things get messy. Grak's roar of laughter was echoed by his bridge officers. Surrender to a single human and his pets. The stories of human arrogance are true. So are the stories of human combat prowess, Noah noted. But you can confirm that personally if you insist. The warlord descended from his platform, drawing a massive blade from his back. I will add your skull to my collection, human. You can try. What followed was a brutal confrontation that tested even Noah's considerable skills. The warlord was fast despite his size, his blade whistling through the air with lethal precision. Noah ducked and weaved, looking for openings, studying his opponent's movements while his plebeian soldiers distracted the rest. Your forces are being decimated outside, Noah said as he avoided another powerful swing. Your command structure is in chaos, and now your flagship is compromised. How long before your captains start wondering if they should save themselves? Die quietly, human! Grak bellowed, pressing his attack with renewed fury. Noah allowed the blade to come closer with each pass, drawing the warlord into a pattern. When Grak committed to a particularly powerful overhead strike, Noah finally made his move, stepping inside the warlord's guard and driving his combat knife into a gap in the alien's armor, right below his ribcage. Not a killing blow, but a disabling one. Grak staggered, dark blood seeping around the blade. That's your secondary cardiovascular node, Noah said matter-of-factly. You're not dying, but you won't be fighting anymore today. Now, about that surrender. Grak sank to his knees, hatred burning in his eyes. Kill me, and be done with it. I won't surrender to prey. I'm not prey, Noah replied, retrieving his knife and cleaning it methodically. I'm the predator your nightmares warned you about. And right now, I'm offering you a choice. Surrender and live, or die here while your fleet is destroyed. To emphasize his point, a tremendous explosion rocked the flagship, one of the plebeian strike groups masking a run against their engines. Blort stepped forward, translating Noah's terms into formal Durgan battle speech. By your own code, Warlord, defeat with honor allows for favorable terms. The human offers life instead of annihilation. Long minutes passed as Grak weighed his pride against survival. Finally, with obvious reluctance, he grasped Noah's offered forearm in the traditional Durgan gesture of submission. The Horde yields. But know this, human. We will remember. Good, Noah said. Remember especially the part where one human brought down your entire invasion. The formal surrender was conducted aboard Queen Rhaegar's flagship, with Warlord Grak grudgingly accepting terms that allowed the Durgan fleet safe passage out of plebeian space in exchange for non-aggression guarantees and substantial reparations. As the defeated warlord was escorted out, Rhaegar turned to Noah with undisguised admiration. You delivered on your promise, Commander Brown. One man did what our entire military could not. I just showed them what they were capable of, Noah replied. Your people aren't natural warriors, but they can learn. Thanks to you. She dismissed her advisors with a gesture, leaving them alone in her private chamber aboard the flagship. Now, we must discuss your reward. We had a deal, Safe passage back to human space. Vergara approached him slowly, deliberate in her movements.
Is that truly what you want, Noah? To return to drifting between mercenary jobs and empty bars? To waste your talents on petty conflicts?
You offering an alternative?
The Plorbian Empire needs strength to rebuild. My people respect power, and you have demonstrated power beyond anything they've witnessed. She stopped directly before him. They would follow you. As would I, in a manner of speaking.
Noah raised an eyebrow. In a manner of speaking?
I propose an alliance.
Her eyes held his, unwavering.
A political marriage that would make you king of the Plorbian Empire, my consort and partner in rebuilding our military, our society.
Noah couldn't help but laugh. I'm pretty sure humans and Plorbians aren't biologically compatible, Your Majesty.
To his surprise,
Vergara laughed as well.
Political marriages aren't about breeding, Noah. They're about uniting strengths.
Her hand touched his arm, cool against his skin.
Though, I confess, the biological question has crossed my mind.
Noah considered the offer, weighing it against his drifter's existence. Purpose versus freedom. Responsibility versus solitude. And there was Vergara herself, intelligent, strong-willed, and undeniably intriguing. I have conditions, he said finally. The Empire reforms along meritocratic lines. No more ceremonial officers or decorative weapons. Real training, real readiness.
Agreed.
And Blort gets a promotion. He's earned it.
Vergara smiled. He'll be royal advisor. I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
Then I accept.
Noah took her hand, sealing the agreement as they had their first.
Though, I should warn you, I make a terrible consort. Ask anyone.
I don't want a traditional consort, Vergara replied, her fingers twining with his. I want a king who fights like you do, without fear, without hesitation, and without mercy when necessary.
That, Noah said, pulling her closer, I can provide.
The coronation was conducted with all the pomp the Plorbian court could muster, though Noah had insisted on wearing a modified version of his combat gear rather than the ornate robes they'd initially proposed. Queen Vergara, now his equal rather than his superior, stood beside him as the ancient crown of the Plorbian kings was placed upon his head. Blort, resplendent in his new role as royal advisor, watched with undisguised pride. His gamble in kidnapping a human had paid off beyond his wildest expectations. The assembled court, Plorbian nobles and military leaders, along with the representatives from the now allied Durgan horde, waited expectantly for the new king's address. Noah Brown, former drifter and reluctant warrior, now king of the Plorbian Empire, surveyed the gathering with the same tactician's eye that had served him in countless battles.
The Plorbian Empire stands at a crossroads, he began, his voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. For too long, you've relied on technology without the will to use it effectively. For too long, you've forgotten that peace must be defended with strength. The court listened in rapt attention as Noah outlined his vision. A reformed military, a meritocratic society where capability mattered more than birth, and a new philosophy that balanced Plorbian innovation with human determination. Our enemies believed that numbers decided wars, he continued. They were wrong. Spirit decides wars. Will decides wars. His eyes found Regaris, a shared understanding passing between them. Sometimes, the most powerful army is just one person who refuses to accept defeat. As the court erupted in acclaim, Noah felt Regaris' hand slip into his, a gesture that symbolized more than just their political alliance. They had found not just a kingdom, but a purpose, not just a queen, but a match for his own strength and resolve. The legend of the one-man legion would spread throughout the sector, growing with each retelling. And in time, when Plorbian ships encountered hostile forces, they needed only to say, "Our king is a human," to watch their would-be attackers reconsider. One human had been worth an army after all, and Noah Brown, who had spent his life fighting other people's wars, had finally found one worth winning.